Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Askediome. Let's start the questions. What is precision nutrition?
Okay, let us go back a bit about, let's talk a bit about nutrition before we define what is precision nutrition, right? So generally, I'll say more than 90% of the cases, people relate nutrition to only, micronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, right? And that's has been a major way of measuring our nutrition choices, right? But what we fail to understand that these are only us one of the part of the nutrition, right? Another and the most important part is the various chemicals and bioactive molecules inside the food, right? And when the food gets into our body, it is they our genes and our microbes doesn't know what food is. They talk in chemicals and molecules, right? So various chemicals and molecules, it can be oxalate, it can be bile acid, it can be quinine, sulfate, right? Polyamines, putrescine, so there are resistant starch, inulin. There are such various, molecules and chemicals, right? And even including the vitamins and minerals, right? So essentially, all these gets into our body, and since our microbial genes outnumber human genes by 150 to 1, right? So essentially, a lot of these molecules are metabolized by these microbes, and they're synthesized into, you know, uh, byproducts, and these byproducts is what uh, you know gives us good things and bad things, right? So essentially, we really see how various microbes metabolizes these chemicals and molecules, right? And how much of each of these chemicals and molecules has to be fed on to these different microbes, what is their activity level, what is their functions, how much active they are, what is their environment, how they are interacting with other microbes and our human body. So there are multiple factors at play, right? So when it comes to precision nutrition, it is in by what it means precise, right, for your biology. Okay. So essentially, what I mean by precision nutrition is, right, precisely how much of each molecule, compound, chemical, uh, macronutrients, fiber, uh, minerals, vitamins, antioxidant enzymes, amino acids your body needs, right? Uh, that is very precise based on your biology. So really, you really don't need to measure the calories, you need to measure your biology, right? For instance, if I'm going to suppose feed 20 grams of spinach, right, which has vitamin D, which has iron, right? Also have oxalate. So if my activity of certain microbes which are responsible for utilizing oxalate is low, probably we need to measure how much is something which would not trigger kidney stone or joint pains, because oxalate, if there's a high level of oxalate, circulatory oxalate in the blood, it triggers a lot of the joint pain and kidney stone issues, right? So again, we need to measure how much of each of the molecule we need to feed our microbes and our body with, and that's where precision nutrition comes into picture. And that's why no one can actually so there's nothing called as quantified nutrition or quantifying your calories, counting how much of protein, carbs, fats you have consumed. It's more of how these molecules are interacting with your microbes, with your body, and then it determines how much of each molecules we need. Yeah, and so that's a basic about precision nutrition.
Okay. And that also summarizes why not all the diets are for everybody.
Yeah,
Like people these days go for diets that इससे उसका weight कम हुआ तो this might be beneficial for me as well and go for fat diets like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so next question we
Yeah.
have, what do you think about a plant-based diet? Yeah.
Okay, so generally, if you see the in market, or if you look out for solutions, nutrition advice, nutrition consulting, right? Or someone telling you what I should eat, what I should not, right? So generally people would say, follow ketosis, follow Atkins, Mediterranean, high protein diet, plant-based diet, animal-based, have less of an
Yeah.
animal-based protein. There's a lot of these things.
Everybody have their opinions right now.
Yeah. So that is a problem, everyone thinks, again, as coming back to the previous discussion, what we did is, protein, carbs and fats, right? But so plant-based diet can be a good starting point, right? In terms of, because when you talk of plant-based, where you have a lot of fiber, insulin resistant starch, a lot of vitamins, minerals, a lot of these things, right? But again, these, you cannot assume it's a general thing, oh, I need to have plant-based diet, so I'll take all the vegetables. I'll eat broccoli, I'll eat spinach, I'll eat bell pepper, I'll eat mushroom, I'll eat carrot, right? So everyone, so these are generalized, you okay, have mix of vegetables, which could be a good starting point, but there are multiple things. So there are two things which we should consider here when we talk of plant-based diet vis-a-vis other diets, and that's why there's nothing called a diet which can tell you, anyone can tell you what you should eat, right? So so first thing is, most of the poisons, toxins, even antibiotics comes from plant or derived from plant-based molecules, right? So it doesn't
Oh.
mean, that you're having carrot, you're having broccoli, you're having sweet potato, you're having potato, you're having fruits like pineapple, or yam, or these. So all these vegetables are not necessarily are going to be good for you. It can be good or bad for you. For instance, what we have found that in a lot of our customers profile who went for our gut microbiome and the vaginal microbiome products, right? So we found a lot of plant-based viruses like, yam virus, sweet potato virus, carrot virus, bell pepper virus, right?
Okay.
Right. So, and these something which no one can, no nutritionist or no coach can tell you, because they are generally focusing on the macro level situation, right? So again, plant-based diets can be a good starting point, but again, you really need to measure your biology, because your biology is as unique as your fingerprint. It is very, very unique. So essentially, you need to know whether you have certain, viruses inside your gut, which may actually trigger inflammation by eating food such as sweet potato, or bell pepper, or even cauliflower, or carrot, or cabbage, or whatever, it's so don't go generalizing. There's nothing called as a universal healthy food. It's all a myth. You need to answer whether a food is healthy for me or not. That is a question we should be asking, rather than just falling for this is healthy, that is healthy, this is superfood, that is superfood. A superfood which is a superfood for you may not be for your wife. A superfood which is a superfood for you right now may not be a superfood after 3 months, right? So it's again, as you start feeding, your microbiome composition keeps on changing, right? So you really need to focus on measuring your biology, right? So that's right.
Okay, I have a question. Like, do we have all the nutrients for a vegetarian and veggies and everything apart from eggs and all? Because I remember I went to, not me, but I went with my friend to a doctor. She suggested that पता नहीं क्या कम था उसके बॉडी में, तो डॉक्टर और न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट में भी उन्होंने कहा to include egg in her diet. So is it possible आज के टाइम पे a vegetarian to live with पूरा अपना veggies and everything and have all the nutrients?
See, again, this is all not generalized things. So,
हाँ.
you know, because people, doctors, even doctors and nutritionists really don't understand your biology just by looking at some questionnaire or blood works, they cannot answer, right? So even eggs, if you talk of eggs are high in tryptophan, right? So tryptophan, to some extent, it helps regulating the satiety, but it depends upon how the tryptophan is metabolized by your microbiome again, because we know we are metabolized food is really less, and it's all boils to our microbiome. Tryptophan can be converted into good things like indole acetic acid, which is beneficial, which regulates your sugar level, right? So we are actually building this biomarker in our glycemic response prediction model, which we are soon launching, right? Other, or it can lead to indoxyl sulfate, which is again can trigger chronic kidney issues and a lot of these things, right? So essentially, first question you should ask, right? If someone is saying, have spinach, have broccoli, have cabbage, have mushroom, have eggs, because you need to know, have vitamin D or vitamin B12 or iron or magnesium, right? Thing is, all these nutrients are, what you are saying is consumption, not absorption, right? So these all even when you talk of vitamin D, even mushroom, or even sunlight, or taking vitamin D supplements, it's all our vitamin D2, which is an active form. To convert vitamin D2 into vitamin D3, you need bitrate producing microbes. Again, it all boils down to your microbiome, right? So essentially, having a food high in vitamin D, vitamin B12, vitamin C, vitamin K, iron, magnesium, so it is not going to make sure that you're getting those vitamins and minerals. So again, eggs can be good thing because it is one of the source of amino acids, but eggs can trigger a lot of so if you have an sulfate reducing bacteria, it can trigger H2S production. You can have a rotten egg smell when you are pooping, right? So or these certain bacteria can convert tryptophan either into good things like indoxyl acetic acid or indoxyl sulfate. So there are multiple things which matters. You cannot assume, okay, I'm eating egg, it is good for me. It can be good, it can be bad. Again, you need to measure what your microbes are doing, not only who are present, right? So the problem is, there are a lot of companies where they come up with say, okay, we can tell you which microbes are there. It is not going to help. So which microbes is there is nothing, is just a half information. You need to do what they're doing. Same microbes doing good thing in your body may be doing bad things in my body, right? So don't fall for such.
But can a vegetarian, no, see, I wanted to ask, can a vegetarian survive today without like taking meat or
Why
eggs
not?
and everything? No?
So what do you need from meat? You need, let's say, let us talk couple of molecules. You need choline. Choline
Hmm.
is required. Acetylcholine is required for for your brain development. You need tryptophan, which actually helps you regulate your sugar level. You need protein. So protein you can get
Hmm.
from vegetarian sources also, right? You need vitamin B12. Vitamin B12. Again, it is not about having animal protein. It is about how those molecules are being metabolized, right? So there are a lot of vitamin
Okay.
B12 vegetarian
Okay.
sources as well, right? So
Hmm.
don't think, okay, I'm having a chicken, I'm having a fish, probably I'm going to get all nutrients. It's not necessary. It all
Okay.
depends upon. So you should have not, what I should eat, but you should know how
What
how
is?
these foods are interacting with your microbes, right? That is the question you
Got it.
should be answering.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it. So, okay, apart from our discussions, let's move to next question.
Yeah.
Is curcumin good for me?
Okay, so again, this is really important. So if you see turmeric or curcumin, what we call is in India is haldi, right? So
Uh-huh.
so we say, okay, if you have zukam mein bukhar hai, so you say, doodh mein haldi dalo, and we have a lot of
Ah,
this stuff. This is
typical.
called as anti-inflammatory thing, right? But what if I told you that it can trigger inflammation? It can even trigger a situation of diarrhea, right? So so
Okay.
so what happens is, so there's a concept called, we all know that when we eat fat rich foods, what the digestion of fat is subject to bile acid, right? Again, bile acid is produced inside the liver by using cholesterol, and it goes to small intestine where it is used to metabolize a lot of fat, and right, that aids in fat digestion. A portion of it also goes to, so a lot of these are actually, so essentially it goes from gallbladder, from liver, it gets stored in gallbladder, it goes to small intestine, the food is processed and goes back to gallbladder and gets stored there, right? So that's how your bile acid, the
Mm-hmm.
function of bile acid. A portion of it also goes to large intestine, which is converted into bile salts, right? And then again, biles, the microbiome, gut microbiome, send it back, right? converts the bile acid back into, bile salt back into the bile acid and goes to again to the gallbladder and liver, so where it is getting stored, right? So again it is reprocessed. But if your bile acid metabolism, so for instance, if you have a lot of activity, high activity of bilophila bacteria, which is again a bile lever, right? Bile lever. So essentially, you can have a high abnormal or suboptimal bile acid metabolism activity, which can trigger inflammation. So, curcumin actually increase your bile flow, right? So essentially, if you need to understand what is your bile acid metabolism, right? If it's really high, really excessive, probably curcumin could be bad for you, or turmeric could do bad things inside your body. It can trigger inflammation. It can lead to, digestive issues. It can lead to diarrhea issues, right? So don't assume, as I mentioned, precision nutrition when we talk is this not healthy. Calling a food is healthy is a myth. Calling a food, asking whether it is healthy for me or no, is the right question, right? So that is something which is really, really
Okay.
important. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so we
similarly,
have the next.
I'll add a couple of more food examples here, right? Which will be for the benefit of the viewers and listeners here, right? So when we talk of, spinach, as I mentioned, spinach is high in iron, and we say, okay, spinach is one of the most loved green vegetable. It's one of the most consumed green vegetable, but it has a high level of oxalate. So if your microbiome doesn't have, oxalobacter formagine, which is one of the key proponents in neutralizing oxalic acid, so probably you can have a high level of oxalic acid inside your blood, which can trigger kidney stone, which can trigger a lot of joint pains and a lot of things. Similarly, we talk of, especially for vegetarians, since we're talking about vegetarians, so vitamin B3 or niacin is really, really important, right? And we really need that. But what happens is, if you have a very high level of uric acid, so probably if your microbiome is metabolizing a lot of fructose and purines into uric acid, right? Because we humans don't have urease, which is again which neutralizes uric acid, right? So essentially, high uric acid people should avoid vitamin B3, right? Uh, Similarly, you referred meat, right? So meat, chicken, and all these are foods in high in choline and L-carnitine. So if you have a lot of proteobacteria inside your gut, they can convert L-carnitine into TMA, trimethylmalonine, right? And that can be that goes to your liver and get converted to TMAO, which can trigger heart diseases, right? So essentially, if you don't have that bacteria active, probably meat is good. You can eat meat. If you don't have, a lot of uric acid producing bacteria, vitamin B3 is going to be do good things. Similarly, broccoli, if you don't have, broccoli has a lot of sulfur. So, or eggs, as we mentioned, a lot of sulfur, right? So if you have a lot of sulfate reducing bacteria as SRBs, which convert this, like desulfobrio, which converts, sulfate into sulfide, which leads to production of H2S, which leads to, digestive issues. So essentially, broccoli can be good if you don't have those bacteria active, but it will be really bad if you have those bacteria really active in doing this, producing a lot of H2S, right? So again, a food can be good or bad for you. You doesn't have to always go for a plant-based diet, right? It all depends on even plant-based diet. If you're going, you have to ask which specific food, how it is going to be metabolized inside my body, and what it is going to be converted into, right? So don't fall for general recommendation. Have a lot of green vegetables, have a lot of eggs, have meat, have milk, blah blah blah. See what molecules are there in every food and how those foods are being metabolized and synthesized inside the body.
Okay. So we have the next question. Should we consider taking probiotics alongside antibiotics?
Okay, yeah. So this is an important question, a great question. So every time we have fever, we have some pain, or uh, some sort of normal attack and disease and infections, we generally go for antibiotics. Or even if we have
Antibiotics.
right,
Yeah.
we have acid reflux, we go for PPIs and a lot of these next.
Azithromycin is my family's favorite.
Okay. Okay. So what happens is, when you are, so consider antibodies are like time bomb at a bomb inside your body, right? So again, they don't ask, okay, I'm going to kill this bacteria, I'm not going to kill that bacteria. It kills everything, right? So one cycle of antibiotics or drugs, for instance, 7 days would wipe off around 70-75% of your bacteria, right? And
Okay.
as we mentioned that, a lot of these foods are metabolized by our microbiome. So it creates an dysbiosis, or what we call as gut microbial dysbiosis, right? And again, this dysbiosis, actually what it happens is it leads to various symptoms like bloating, constipation, headache, migraine, elevated blood sugar level, and blah blah blah. A lot of these symptoms, fatigue, low energy, right? And what most of the healthcare practitioners or companies would say, okay, start taking probiotics, right? But that is one of the most wrong suggestions, because what happens is, when you are taking, suppose even if you take probiotics, it would vary from one strain to 5 to 6 to 8 to 10 strains, right? So essentially, now you are, when take probiotics, you're colonizing your gut with those 10, 12 strains. And since you have taken antibiotics, right, those bacteria have power to dominate your microbial ecosystem, right? And that's how they will start doing inflammation, they will start doing bad things, so you will start having some other symptoms. So the right way to go about is, once you have taken antibiotics, have a lot of diverse foods, have a lot of probiotic
Okay.
foods, fermented foods, right? like
Okay.
like kimchi, like yogurt, right? Pickles,
Dahi.
yeah. A lot of foods high in resistant starch and fiber, so that they feed
Okay.
the leftover bacteria which are there, right?
Okay.
After the antibiotics, so that they start growing, and then you analyze, okay, which bacteria are not there, which strain I need, right? So have at least for 2 to 3 weeks, have these uh, foods high in prebiotics, and fermented foods high in inulin, high resistant starch, high in beneficial other molecules, choline, the lot of these things, right? And then resort to probiotics, depending on which strain your body needs, right? So never
Oh.
go for never alternate antibiotics with probiotics, or someone would say, start taking antibiotics in the morning, take probiotics in the evening. Don't do that. That's going to do mess inside your body. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. So these were all for today.
Okay, great. So so next week, what topic we are planning, Ridhima? Let us announce, so that probably people would be expecting some sort of what kind of topics we are discussing.
Hmm.
Right?
We can go for skin or maybe autism in kids. It's
Okay, so
like very
let's do skin,
prevalent these
probably
days.
autism. We have done a lot of talks on autism, right? So
Okay.
let's talk about skin locks. Let's talk about acne, eczema, cirrhosis, and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Chalo, great. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.